K.v.Setti, working as a lecturer in PSR Law College, Kakinada, affiliated to Nannaya University, Rajabahedram, Andhra Pradesh. I teach Constitutional Law 1. Today's topic is Constitutional Development of India since 1858 to 1947. And Minto reforms, diarchy, Chelmsford reforms. Government of India Act 1958. The Act was enacted in the wake of the revolt of 1857. First war of independence or the Sepoy Mutiny. Act for the good government of India. Good government of India. Transferred the powers of government, territories and revenues to the British Crown. Features of this act are India to be governed by and in the name of Her Majesty. Governor General of India to that of Viceroy of India. According to this act, the Governor General became a Viceroy of India. Lord Canning is the first Viceroy of India, was the direct representative of the British Crown in India. Ended system of double government by abolishing Board of Control and Board of Directors. According to this act, the double government means diarchy was abolished in India. New office of Secretary of State for India, complete authority over Indian administration. Member of British Cabinet and was responsible to British Parliament. The Secretary of State was made the chairman of the Council. The Act 1773 is the great constitutional importance. Accepted for the first time the right of Parliament to regulate the affairs of the East India Company. The Act is the first act of British Parliament which enabled a definite system of government of India. It did the following things: changed the constitution of the company in England, recognized the government of Calcutta, brought the presidencies of Bombay and Madras to some extent under the control of the Governor General of Bengal, established a Supreme Court in Calcutta. 1871, Act of Settlement to remove the defects of the Regulating Act of 1773. The Act of Settlement of 1871 made the following changes in the Regulating Act. It exempted the actions of the public servants of the company done in official capacity from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It tried to settle the question of jurisdiction of the court over servants of the company and the native inhabitants. It made it clear as to what law to be applied by the Supreme Court. The Regulating Act recognized and confirmed the appellate jurisdiction of the government, the Governor General in cases decided by the Mufsil courts. It exempted the Governor General in Council to frame regulations from the provisions, court and councils also. Indian Councils Act 1861, 1892 and 1909. Failures of the Act 1861. Beginning of representative institutions by associating Indians. Viceroy should nominate some Indians as non-official members. 1862. Lord Canning nominated 3 Indians to his legislative council, the Raja of Benares, the Maharaja of Patiala and Sri Dinkar Rao. Decentralization by restoring the legislative powers to the Bombay and Madras presidencies. Reserved the centralizing tendency that started from the Regulating Act of 1773. It reached its climate under the Chapter of 1833. Legislative devolution resulted almost complete internal autonomy to the provinces in 1937. Establishment of new legislative councils of Bengal, Northwest provinces, frontier provinces and Punjab, which were established in 1862, 1866 and 1897 respectively, gave a recognition of the portfolio system introduced by Lord Canning in 1839. Viceroy to issue ordinances without the consequences of the Legislative Council during an emergency. Life of such a ordinance was 6 months. Act 1784, the Pitt's India Act. The Act of Settlement of 1781, however, could not cure the defects of Regulating Act. The matter was raised in the Parliament. Consequently, Parliament appointed 2 committees. The committee recommended for the recall of the Governor General Warren Hastings and the Chief Justice Impey, but Court of Proprietors refused to recall them. The Act distinguished between commercial and political functions of the company. The Court of Directors were allotted to manage commercial affairs of the company, but the Political Affairs Board of Commissions, known as Board of Control, was appointed to control such affairs. The commission was appointed by the king and have to hold office during his pleasure. The control military and civil persons, but Court of Directors were still strong. The Charter of 1813. The monopoly of East India Company was taken away and India trade was thrown open all British subjects. The Chapter Act of 1833. The Governor General of Bengal was henceforth to be styled as the Governor General of India. The Governor in General was empowered to make laws and legislations for the persons, whether British or native, foreigners or others, place and things within the territory of the company. The laws made under the previous acts were called regulations, but the laws made under the Act of 1833 were called Acts of Parliament. Features of the Act 1892 increased the functions of legislative councils and gave them the power of discussing the budget and addressing questions to the executive. Central Legislative Council by the Viceroy on the recommendation of the Provincial Legislative Council and the Bengal Chamber of Commerce. That of the Provincial Legislative Council by the governors on the recommendation of the district boards, municipalities, universities, trade associations, zamindars and chambers. Features of the Act of 1909. Morley Minto reforms. According the Act will be called otherwise Morley Minto reforms. Morley is the Secretary of the State of India and Minto is the Viceroy of India. According to this, increased the size of the legislative councils, both central and provincial. Members in the Central Legislative Council was raised from 6 to 60. It retained officials' majority in the Central Legislative Council, but allowed the provincial legislative councils to have non-official majority. Members were allowed to ask supplementary questions, more resolutions on the budget. Satyendra Prasad Sinha became the first Indian to join the Viceroy's Executive Council. He was appointed as the law member. Commercial representation for Muslims, communal representation for Muslims by accepting the concept of separate electorate. Muslim members were to be elected only by Muslim voters. Lord Minto came to be known as the father of communal electorate. Separate representation of presidency, corporations, chambers of Chamber of Commerce, universities and zamindars. Government of India Act 1919, which came into force in 1921, also known as Montague Chelmsford reforms. Montague is the Secretary of the State and the Chelmsford is the Viceroy of India. Act 1917, government its object was the gradually introduction of representative responsible government in India. Features of this Act 1917 is separating the central and provincial subjects, authorized to make laws on their respective list of subjects, further divided the provincial subjects into transferred and reserved. Transferred subjects were to be administered by the governor with the aid of ministers responsible to the legislative council. Reserved subjects, on the other hand, were to be administered by the governor and his executive council. Dual scheme of government was known as diarchy. Greek word diarchy means double rule. First time bicameralism and direct elections in the country. Indian Legislative Council was replaced by a bicameral legislation. Upper house means Council of State. Lower house means Legislative Assembly. majority direct elections. Three of the 6 members of the Viceroy's Executive Council were to be Indian. Communal representation, separate electorates for 6 Christians, Anglo-Indians, Europeans. Create a new office of the High Commission for India in London. Establishment of Public Service Commission. Central Public Service Commission was set up in 1926. Separated for the first time provincial budgets from the central budget. Appointment of the statutory commission to inquire into and report on its working after 10 years. Simon Commission. The Simon Commission appointed in November 1927 itself. Comprised with chairman and 7 members. Sir John Simon to report on the condition of the Indian under its new constitution. All the members of the commission were British. All political parties were boycotted. Submitted the report in 1930 and recommended the abolition of diarchy. Proposals of the commission, the British government convened 3 round table conferences. Recommendations in the next Government of India Act 1935. Government of Indian Act 1935. Second milestone towards a completely responsible government in India. It was a lengthy and detailed document having 321 sections and 10 schedules. Indian Independence Act of 1947. February 20, 1947, the British Parliament Element actually declared British rule in India would end June 30, 1948, following by the agitation by the Muslim League demanding partition of the country. June 3, 1947, the British government made it clear that any constitution framed by Constituent Assembly cannot apply to those parts of the country which were unwilling to accept it. Same day, June 3, 1947, Mountbatten put first partition plan known as Mountbatten, accepted by the Congress and the Muslim League. Immediately, effect was given to the plan by exhorting the Indian Independence Act 1947. Features of this act: ended British rule and declared as an independent sovereign state from August 15, 1947. Partition of India and the creation of 2 independent dominions of India and Pakistan. Abolished the office of Viceroy and provided to act each dominion. Governor General to be appointed by the British King on the advice of the Dominion Cabinet. He empowered constituent assemblies, 2 dominions to frame and adopt any constitution. He abolished the office of the Secretary of State for India and transferred his functions to the Secretary of State for Commonwealth Affairs. Freedom to the Indian princely states either to join the Dominion of India or Dominion of Pakistan or to remain independent. Deprived British monarch of his right to veto bill. Right was reserved for the Governor General. Governor General India and provincial governments as constitutional heads of the state. Discontinued the appointment to civil services and reservation of force for the Secretary of State for India. Lord Mountbatten became first Governor General of the new Dominion of India. He swore in Jawaharlal Nehru as the first Prime Minister of India. Constituent Assembly of India framed in 1946 because it became the Parliament of the Indian Constitution. B.R. Ambedkar was the head of drafting committee.